Hispanic family cut me off 7 years ago for marrying a white lawyer. Now my criminal cousin needs legal help and they're suddenly calling me because he might end up in prison. I, 36F, got cut off by my family for marrying a white guy. Yeah, I know how that sounds in 2024. My husband's family couldn't believe this shit either when they first heard about it. But that's just how things work in my family. It's been 7 years since they decided I wasn't worth talking to anymore, and now they've suddenly shown up asking for my help to bail out my cousin. The fucking audacity of these people, I swear. Like, they couldn't even send a single text when my daughter was born 3 years ago, but now that they need a lawyer in the family, they remembered I exist? Right, because that's totally how family is supposed to work. Growing up in my big Hispanic family, community meant everything, and I mean everything. We weren't rich by any means, but we stuck together like glue. Every single Sunday, rain or shine, all 25 plus of us would squeeze into my abuela's tiny 2-bedroom house in the old neighborhood. The place would be overflowing with people, food, and non-stop Spanish chatter. My parents were obsessed with family unity and preserving our culture. They preached about it 24/7, always going on about how we had to stick together no matter what and never forget where we came from. My mom especially took this shit seriously. She'd flip out if we even spoke English at home. My dad wasn't much better, always telling us stories about how our grandparents came here with nothing and built everything from scratch. But what they really meant by all this family unity crap was that you had to follow their rules if you wanted to stay part of the family. You know how it goes, respect the elders, which really means do whatever TF they say, put family first, even when they're being toxic AF, and never ever break tradition. That last one. Yeah, that's what got me kicked out. Look, I need to explain some shit about my family's background for this to make sense. I met my husband Daniel back in law school 10 years ago. We were in different streams. I did corporate law while he focused on criminal defense. And no, it wasn't some romantic movie bullshit where we locked eyes across the library and fell in love at first sight. Reality was way less dramatic. We just kept running into each other during study sessions and coffee breaks. I actually found him kind of annoying at first. He was that guy who always had to argue about everything in class. But somewhere between all those late-night study sessions and coffee runs, he became my best friend. We'd spend hours talking about random stuff, not just law school crap. He was the first person who actually got my weird sense of humor and didn't judge me for wanting something different than what my family had planned. When I first told him about him, holy shit, you'd think I told him I was moving to Mars or something. My mom straight up lost it. Going, how will you adjust with this family? What about our values? How will your kids know their culture? And my dad wouldn't shut up about our reputation in the community. Like WTF, we weren't even engaged yet and they were already stressing about hypothetical grandkids. This wasn't even the first time they'd freaked out about my choices. They'd had a similar meltdown when I chose law school over teaching, which was apparently more suitable for a girl in our community. Look, I need to explain some shit about my family's background for this to make sense. Most of them work in farming or fishing, nothing wrong with that at all, but education wasn't exactly top priority in our family. My uncle Jorge always says we've worked the land for generations. Why change now? In my generation, only 3 of us even made it to college. Me, my cousin Maria, who became a nurse but quit when she got married, and my cousin Alex, who dropped out after 2 years because college is for white people. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I grew up hearing. None of my female cousins have professional jobs. They're either stay-at-home moms or working minimum wage jobs, married to guys in similar situations. My cousin Carmen actually had a scholarship for business school but turned it down because her boyfriend, now husband, didn't want her moving to another city. And everyone's totally fine with all of this because guess what? They all married Hispanic guys. That's literally all that matters to my family. The fact that Daniel had a law degree meant jack shit to them because he wasn't one of us. It didn't matter that he was successful or that we were perfect for each other. All they saw was that he was white. I tried explaining to my parents how perfect Daniel was for me. Like, we're both lawyers so we understand each other's insane schedules and stress levels. Plus his family has been nothing but welcoming since day one. His mom even learned to make tamales, but my mom wouldn't hear any of it. She went on this crazy mission to set me up with literally every single Hispanic guy she could find within a 50-mile radius. I'm not even exaggerating. She'd text me random guys' info non-stop. Oh, your Tia Rose's neighbor's cousin has a son who just moved back home. He works at the grocery store. Like, okay mom. And if I ignored these messages, she'd send these passive-aggressive bullshit texts about how I was brainwashed by Daniel. She even started using this term whitewashed by your white boyfriend, which pissed me off so much. My cousin Teresa tried the same crap when she got married to a guy from our church, Spent months trying to convince me to meet her husband's friend because he's such a good Catholic boy. Like seriously, what year are we living in? It got so bad that I had to mute all their messages and stop going home for holidays. Daniel's parents were actually amazing about it. They always made sure I felt welcome at their place during holidays, even learning to make some of our traditional dishes so I wouldn't feel homesick. When Daniel proposed, I didn't even bother telling my family right away. What was even the point? My sister-in-law from my brother's side had already warned me about how the family reacted when she told them she was dating a Puerto Rican guy, and he was at least Latino. It didn't matter that Daniel spoke Spanish fluently, he learned it in high school and kept studying in college, loved our food, and actually made an effort to understand our traditions. Hell, he probably knew more about our culture than my cousin Pablo, who claims he's keeping it real but can barely speak Spanish. To them, Daniel would always be an outsider, and me being with him was basically treason. At first, Daniel wanted to try talking to them, maybe work things out. He kept saying they're your family, they'll come around eventually. But I knew better. My family can be real assholes when they want to be, and they wouldn't think twice about saying nasty shit straight to his face. No way I was letting that happen. The wedding planning turned into this huge emotional mess. My aunt had already spread rumors about me, thinking I'm too good for my own people just because I moved to a better neighborhood after getting my law degree. Daniel and I had this long talk about it one night, and he made a good point. I wasn't doing anything wrong, so why was I acting like I needed to hide? Better to just be upfront about it. So I called my mom to tell her about our wedding plans. Jesus Christ, I wasn't ready for the shitstorm that followed. She completely lost it. Started screaming about how I was killing her, how she'd failed as a mother, all that dramatic shit. Told me to quit my job and move back home ASAP like I was some teenager who needed to be grounded. I straight up told her I wasn't 6 years old anymore who'd follow her orders without thinking. But she wouldn't back down about canceling the wedding. I sent invites to my parents, my brother, and some cousins I thought I was close with anyway. These were people I grew up with, shared everything with. Like my brother and I used to be inseparable, we'd cover for each other when we snuck out as teenagers, help each other with homework, all that sibling stuff. My cousin and I were basically joined at the hip through high school, always talking about how we'd be each other's bridesmaids. But my family went absolutely ballistic when they got those invites, saying I was acting too white by just sending them invitations instead of involving them in every little decision. My mom called and said if I went through with the wedding, I'd be dead to her. My abuela cried about family shame. And my brother, who I seriously thought would have my back, totally ghosted me. He blocked me on everything. None of them gave a shit about what I wanted. All they cared about was that I was betraying our culture or whatever. We ended up having this small but really nice wedding in a park with Daniel's family and our close friends. Not gonna lie, it hurt like hell when not a single person from my family showed up. The next 7 years, complete radio silence. No birthday texts, no calls, nothing when we bought our house. Not even a single fucking word when we had our daughter 3 years ago. That one really killed me inside. I always thought my mom would at least want to meet her granddaughter. My daughter's first word was abuela because I still talked about my mom to her, showed her pictures and stuff. But nope, nothing. It took me a long time, but I learned to deal with it. Had to go to therapy for a while to process all that rejection. I had my own family now who actually loved me without all these stupid conditions. Then last week out of fucking nowhere, my mom calls me. I honestly thought it was a scam at first. Her number hasn't popped up on my phone in literal years. I answered because part of me was curious. But nope, she skipped right past any normal greeting, didn't ask how I was, how her granddaughter was doing, nothing. Just went straight to "we need your help. It's about Ryan." Classic mom, always getting straight to what she wants. Let me tell you about Ryan, my cousin from mom's side and the golden child of the family. This guy has been spoiled rotten since day one. First grandson of our generation, so obviously he could do no wrong in their eyes. When we were kids, he broke my arm by accident during a family party, and guess what? My parents told me to apologize to him for crying and ruining the celebration. He got kicked out of 3 different high schools for fighting, but the family always said it was because the teachers had it out for him. He knocked up his girlfriend at 17, and suddenly it was such a blessing to have a baby in the family. Even when he clearly did a lot of wrong shit growing up, everyone just looked the other way. His parents fixed everything for him, paid all his bills, got him jobs through family connections that he'd eventually mess up. And as he got older, he just got worse because he knew the family would always cover for him. He really fucked up this time. He got arrested for stealing from his workplace. Apparently he'd been forging checks and taking money from the company for months. Now he's looking at serious jail time, and suddenly the family's in crisis mode. They need a lawyer who can help him get out of this mess. And apparently, after 7 years of pretending I don't exist, they remembered that hey, their disowned daughter is actually a lawyer. How convenient. I bet my mom spent hours arguing with herself before making that call, trying to decide if asking the traitor for help was worth it to save precious Ryan. When my mom told me about Ryan's situation, I was honestly stunned. 7 years of treating me like I was dead to them, and now they have the balls to come asking for favors? Not because they miss me or regret what they did, but because they need something from me. And they think I'm just gonna jump in and help their precious Ryan like nothing ever happened. I asked my mom straight up why she was calling me. Can't his parents afford a lawyer? What about all the aunts and uncles who've been kissing his ass's whole life? Can't they help? Mom got all defensive saying they tried, but it wasn't enough because the case was complicated. Then she hit me with your family. I know we've had our differences, but family helps each other. Ryan needs you. The same woman who told me I wasn't her daughter anymore was now playing the family card. When I told Daniel about the call, he was beyond pissed. He remembers how much their rejection hurt me, he said. They threw you away, and now they think they can just walk back into your life because it's convenient? Hell no. Remember how much you needed your mom when you were pregnant? Fuck them. He's 100% right, but I can't stop thinking about the past. Like my abuela making me soup whenever I was sick, singing old Spanish lullabies while I fell asleep. But then I remember how easily they cut me off, how their love always came with conditions that I wasn't willing to meet anymore. How they chose prejudice over their own blood. I know I'm not gonna help them, but I can't stop thinking about my family, which is weird because I haven't felt this way in years, not even when they first cut me off. It's like that phone call reopened all these old wounds I thought had healed. Just wondering if anyone else has dealt with something like this? Update 1. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my post. Just needed to update you all because shit has gotten even more intense since then. The same day I posted here, my mom called again. I declined it and texted her that I couldn't help and she needed to stop bothering me. Big fucking mistake I guess, because that set off a whole new shitstorm. She sent back this long text about how this was the first time they'd ever asked for help and that I was refusing to step up. Then hit me with how I was running away from my responsibility. That last part really pissed me off because they've always used family responsibility to manipulate everyone. So I texted back, my responsibility is only towards my husband and daughter, not to you guys who cut me off because I chose my happiness over your hollow pride. Holy shit, she completely lost it. Started sending these crazy long messages about how I'd changed, how I wasn't the daughter she raised anymore. You became one of them, mean and cruel. Your success has gotten into your head. You've forgotten your roots and where you've come from. The fucking irony of her talking about forgetting family when she hasn't even tried to meet her granddaughter once in 3 years. The messages kept getting more dramatic when my aunt called sobbing about how Ryan has 4 kids to feed, and my uncle sent this long voice message about how the system is rigged against our people and how I'm betraying the community. The most ridiculous message came from my older cousin, who I literally haven't heard from in over a decade. Ryan made some bad choices, but he doesn't deserve prison. You know how the system treats young men from our community. You and Daniel can help him. You don't even have to pay for a lawyer, just represent him yourselves. Yeah, because risking my law license for Ryan sounds like a brilliant idea. These people really have no clue how the legal system works. My dad's been quiet through all this because Ryan is from my mom's side. But I know him, if this was someone from his side of the family, he'd be right there making demands with everyone else. My mom left this dramatic voicemail sobbing about how I was letting everyone down. Apparently, she'd already promised Ryan and his family that I'd take his case and get him out of trouble. Not sure why the fuck she thought she could make that promise, but that's typical of her. After sitting with that voicemail for a few hours, I finally called her back. Told her straight up, I'm not risking my career for Ryan. Consider me out of this drama. She lost it again, calling me names and saying I was acting like a stranger. I shot back with, and you treated me like one for 7 years. Where was all this family loyalty when I needed you? That shut her up for maybe 2 seconds before she came back with you owe us. After everything we did for you, raising you, feeding you, putting you through school, you owe this family. We sacrificed so much for you, and this is how you repay us? I actually laughed at that one. I paid for my own college. I worked my ass off for that partial scholarship and paid the rest with my job. She hung up saying talking to you is like beating a dead horse. I blocked her number after that, thinking maybe that would be the end of it. But nope, 2 days later, Ryan himself called me. At first, I didn't even recognize his voice. Hadn't heard it since that family party 7 years ago where he made jokes about Daniel being a gringo. He put on this fake humble tone. I know we haven't talked in a while, but I need your help. Just hearing his voice brought back all these memories of how the family always favored him. While I was working 2 jobs to pay for law school, he was getting everything handed to him. His dad bought him a house when he got his first kid at 19. I cut him off right there. I'm sorry, Ryan. I can't help you. He started getting angry then. But you're a lawyer. This is what you do. I made a mistake, okay? I'm sorry about whatever happened between you and the family, but that's got nothing to do with me. I had to laugh at that. You're right, it doesn't. He tried one last guilt trip. You're really going to let me rot in prison? What kind of sister does that? I just snapped back the kind who's done being taken advantage of and hung up. It's been quiet since then, and honestly, I hope it stays that way. Final update. Sorry I couldn't update earlier, had to be careful because of all the legal and safety concerns that came up. After that confrontation with Ryan, I thought the drama was finally over, but nope. If there's one thing my family's good at, it's creating more chaos. It started with this random knock at my office door. I was reviewing a case when my assistant buzzed to tell me I had a visitor. Turns out it was Ryan's wife. I haven't seen her since that family party where she got wasted and started drama with my cousin's girlfriend, so this was already weird. She didn't waste any time with small talk. Apparently Ryan's situation is way worse than what my mom told me. The DA has evidence of more than just basic embezzlement. They're looking at fraud charges, credit card scams, fake accounts. He's looking at years in prison, not months like they initially said. By this point, I was so done with all of it that I didn't even pretend to care. I just said, so what? And what does that have to do with me? She said they're offering him a deal. If he cooperates and gives up names of the people he worked with, he could get a reduced sentence. But he doesn't trust the public defender to negotiate it properly. That's why he needs me. Right then I knew this wasn't just Ryan being stupid with company money. This was organized crime shit. You could see it in how his wife hesitated when she was explaining things. So I told her straight up I'm not touching this, not even with a 10-foot pole. She got all pissy and was like, do you even care what happens to him? I snapped back, do you even care what happened to me? You want me to put my career and my life at risk? No. Find someone else. Later that night, Daniel got this call from an old law school friend who works in the DA's office. He casually asked if I was representing Ryan's case. Turns out Ryan's mom had been going around telling everyone I was his lawyer to buy him time with the DA. Daniel's friend wanted to warn us because it could seriously fuck up my reputation. I lost it. Called up Ryan's mom and went off on her. She tried to play it off like I only mentioned it to a few people. The DA was pressuring him and I cut her off right there. You thought you could manipulate me into taking the case? Do you realize how much damage this could do to my career? She tried to defend herself, saying she just thought if people believed I was helping, they'd back off on Ryan. I hung up after threatening legal action against all of them. But the damage was already done. Word spreads fast in legal circles, and suddenly everyone was whispering about me supposedly representing my cousin in this criminal case. Daniel and I had to put out a formal statement saying I had nothing to do with Ryan's defense. The whole thing was humiliating. Then shit got really scary. One evening I got this call from an unknown number. Some guy asking if I was connected to Ryan. When I asked who he was, he just said let's just say I'm his business associate, and he owes me a lot of money. Then he started talking about how since I was handling his case maybe I could help settle their financial dispute and represent him too. I hung up immediately. When I told Daniel, he was fucking livid. Made me block every single family member's contact right then and there. We thought about filing a police report, but without more info it wouldn't do much. Instead, we beefed up security at our house and got our firm's legal team involved to make sure our name stayed clear of this mess. A week later Ryan got arrested again, this time for violating his bail conditions. Apparently he got caught meeting with some of the same people he was supposed to be turning in for his plea deal. My family tried one last time to pressure me into helping. My mom even showed up at Daniel's office crying and begging him to convince me, saying she's my daughter. Doesn't family mean anything to her anymore? Daniel told her point blank that I was done with all this. That was it. I cut off all contact. No more calls, no messages, nothing. A colleague told me later that Ryan took a deal with the DA but tried playing both sides. It backfired big time, and now he's looking at even more time than if he'd just been honest from the start. Last I heard he ended up with a public defender and he's definitely doing time. My mom hasn't called again, but knowing her, she'll probably show up unannounced someday trying to guilt-trip me again. At least now I know for sure I made the right call staying away from all of them and their mess.